Well, welcome to July Power Hour. We appreciate you all joining us live. I am Tessa Chapel outside Indianapolis, Indiana, and you'll see Megan here soon, who's outside Seattle. We appreciate you joining us during the day. This was really about the only time we could figure out we could both line up our schedules to do it, and neither of us wanted to do it Friday night. So you got Friday afternoon. So here we are, and we're going to work through two layouts. If you had already signed up before last night, you got the email with the handouts. If you missed it, you can get it off the website. After this, it will be able to be a free download. And we should get the Zoom recording up this afternoon also, since it's a little bit early in the day. So we will flip down to my table. And today I am yet again another one pager that you could easily mirror or duplicate to do a 2-page layout. I've been working on Emerson's book, like I said, since she graduated. And so it's a school thing. This is Study Buddies from the old company. And we're going to make this diagonal back here. And we can weave through it using the picket fence. If you all have the border maker, it came with the picket fence. So this is a cartridge that you should all have. And other than that, you need the 12-inch trimmer. You can add photos later, but you'll need 2 prints. And this one I used a tonal and a print. You'll need a strip of something. You don't need a lot to weave through your 5/8 strip. And then you'll need a border strip or a laser border, or you can punch something else or anything else that you might want to tuck along the top of it. So that is what we're going to work through. And then with my extras done here, you're going to see when we cut, we end up with the top side of this triangle. And so I don't glue down the mats, but I just went and grabbed another base paper. I glued my extra triangle on here that we're going to cut off. You can grab a couple mats and have an extra layout done even faster if you want. And if you wanted to, you could punch another chain or something to layer along that edge. So you will see the extra triangle as we go. So for today, I am using some paper from Locally Grown. We have a farmer's market here that we go to a couple times a summer. And so I chose, these are both prints, but this print I feel like was dark enough, a little bit less contrast, that it would work well enough against the gingham as my top triangle print. I have a strip of this left over that I'm going to use for my weaving. And then I have some mats that were already cut in that pack. We'll see how they lay on there. So the first thing that we're going to do is you'll need the paper that you want on top. So the one that you're going to see dominant. So for me, it's a strawberry paper. It's the paper in blue on your handout. That's the one that we are going to start with. And you'll need a pencil or something to mark with. You'll either need a ruler or your 13 by 13 mat. I'm going to use my mat. And we're going to make a line for us to cut the diagonal with. So I am marking 3 inches over from the top left. Both of these are going to be at 3 inches. So from the top left, a mark that you can see. And then we're going to go up from the bottom right and do another 3 inches. And I'm going to grab my 12-inch trimmer. Give myself some space. And so you should have your line. And I can almost fit this all the way on there. I think I used my scissors a little bit. I mean, you could fold this to cut it, but it's close enough that I just lined up on my trimmer. So I can see my pencil marks. I'm lining them up on the dotted line of the trimmer. and cutting between. And that's what I'm saying, that sometimes depending on how you have it lay, you might be just a slight bit attached. So you can grab your scissors and just do a little, we're going to punch this edge. Then we have these two pieces. So this is the extra piece I was talking about. You don't need it for this layout, so you can save it and do the second layout if you wanted to. This is the Creative Memories 13 by 13 mat. I love them. I use them. I have actually two down here. I can lay them side by side. Then we're going to need our picket fence. You could do a different border style if you don't want to weave, although I do recommend using a chain, not a chain, an edger or a topper, something that's going to stay on the edge, not a chain one. So I'm going to fold my paper slightly, but I don't want to crease it. So I'm folding it so you're seeing the outside here. And really what I'm most importantly doing is I'm lining up these right here so that I can punch down this. You can give yourself a little corner crease if you want, just to hold the spot. And then I'm going to put this in my border maker system, flush down here. So it's going to bend it a little bit more, and I flop this down, but I didn't crease it as much, so the fold won't be as noticeable later. Then I'm going to start at the bottom and punch my way up. So I'm punching both layers at the same time. Depending on what paper you use, you might not be able to see your fold mark at all. Then I'm going to grab, you can choose, you need 2 pieces of 5/8 to get through the entire diagonal, because this is longer than 12 inches now. Five eighths. It's a little tricky to cut the thin pieces when they're already thin. I'm good. Now I'm going to weave through. You can skip spots if you want, or you really can go every other. On my layout, I had skipped a couple, so you can see I didn't really weave every other one. Depending on how you layer on top of it, you may or may not see a ton of it. So it's more giving me the color of that strip coming through than I might see the whole weave. So I'm going to skip 2 on top. I'm going to go under 1, skip 2 on top, back up under 1. I find it's the easier weave is like as light of a touch as you can get, because the paper should kind of slide through on its own once you get it either up or over. Oh, you can see I'm going too far. So pay attention. You don't want to completely come off your edge. Leave a little bit of overhang at the bottom, because we're going to fold that over. And then wherever you run out of ribbon up here. You want to leave it on the bottom side. And then you can grab your other piece. And come in through the bottom. You're gonna weave it as if you're coming through the top. You can skip one there. So I would really be coming up there, skip down. And probably. So then when I can weave my whole end through, I'm actually going to tuck this end down. So you can double check that you like your weave pattern. And then when you do, you can hold your edge if it's short around your paper, or you can trim it. And then once I'm confident where I want it easier to adhere this so it doesn't move is actually on the, you have tape chips. You can just choose some spots along here. Go near the edge. And the tape chips, don't pull off the top of it, just leave the top little plastic piece on there and it will hold it firmly in place. Here is where my ribbon is coming out. I'm gonna make sure I get one right there. That is the big piece ready for the top. And now I need to grab the piece that I want to layer underneath this. If you want the easy way, you don't have to trim this. You can just layer on top. If you want to get rid of some of the weight or save the extra paper, we can do something similar to how we cut the first one. The difference is we want enough to overlap. So I'm going to mark it up here at 1 inch from the top left and 1 inch from the bottom right. I'm going to cut in between. I'll have to do this in 2 sections because this is layering underneath. Actually, you could even use scissors if you want and clean it up later. Or you could fold it and cut it like that, but I don't really want to fold it. So I'm just going to kind of like do the best I can with the trimmer, and then I can't remember exactly what I did first. Actually, I won't lie. I know I used the trimmer a little bit. I'll just finish off. It doesn't have to be completely clean edge, like I said, because it is going to layer and. So to piece these together, I'm going to turn them upside down and paper weld them. So you can make sure it lays on top like you want, and then flip it over. I'm using the 13 by 13 mat to give me that 12-inch measurement. So I'm pointed down here. I'm going to make sure this piece is up here in the corner. And then you can either paper weld with paper or you can use tape chips. I'm happy to use tape chips. Like I said, if you prefer an easier way, you can just layer these. You don't have to try to cut, weld. Sometimes with these paper packs, if you only have one, you don't want to waste a lot of your print underneath. flip it back over and you can see. And then now I can go back and I can cut this extra ribbon off if I want, now that I have my 12-inch page.
No, hello.
So this is all extra. You can use it for mats or a different layout. And then the other option you have is you can layer something underneath here with a border. Now, you could have done it before you tape these together. I like to kind of see the bigger picture. It's easier for me to lift this and tuck underneath whatever I decide to put on there, or I can start it over there. I pulled out their border stickers. I did use tape chips for the weaving, yes. I used tape chips to hold the weaving on the back and tape chips to paper weld these two pieces together. If you're talking about pulling off the backing for the tape chips, yes, you could do that also. I'm going to pull a couple of these border stickers that came. I'm going to actually turn this upside down, or at least to its side. I'm going to keep my paper lined up underneath there. With stickers, it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit harder to reposition if you don't have it the way you like it. You can always grab the T-ruler if you want to give yourself another straight edge. The T-ruler is nice compared to some because it braces against the mat. Then I can tuck in my sticker just a little bit right there and then follow along the ruler. And then if I let it hang off the edge, I can just trim this extra off. And that is long enough that I would be able to save that. Might use that on another layout. So I can just stick it back on my sticker strip. And I'm going to do 2 of them side by side. So I'm going to grab another one. And kind of flip up underneath there. I'm doing these the opposite wave, so it adds a little bit of extra contrast. In the same direction also. Drop my extra on the end. The T-square is off Amazon. Megan and I have posted the link a couple times, but we can definitely send it out again when we send out the email. They're like $5. They're pretty cheap. If you can find, there's different brands and they change around. You want to try to find one where it's welded together as one piece. This one doesn't have the brand. I think this is one of the first ones we bought. I think the Westrum one link that we have shared before is one piece. It might be $1 or $2 more, but it doesn't come apart right here. So here we have our page made. It's ready for you to put on here whatever you'd like. I do not have pictures printed for this one. But I did mention I had these mats that were cut out of the locally grown. They had a paper in there that had mats on the back. And so once I know for sure what pictures I'm going to choose, I could arrange some mats. And depending on if you can see or not, I'm for it with this paper, I can't see my fold at all. On the blue one, it was a little bit more noticeable. I don't think you can probably see it on camera. It really wasn't that bad still, but you can strategically place your mats on there. This is a nice layout too, to go through your variety mats if you have one, a variety mat on there. Then I just accented with a couple of stickers doing the creasing in the corner. If you want to do a double page layout with this, I would just mirror it one way or the other. So when you make it, I would do the direction backwards. I think I noted that. Yeah, I noted that down here. You can either flip the paper so that you're working off the back side. Then when you flip it back over, it will be the mirror image. Or instead of marking from the left and from the bottom, you would mark it 3 inches over from the top right and 3 inches up from the bottom left, and that will give you the triangle over here. So then you can set it on either side depending on if you want this mirrored this way or mirrored this way. So I do a lot of one-page layouts. It actually could be 2, but usually I don't have enough pictures to do quite all of them. Any questions about that? Were you guys able to follow along, or some of you are just watching? You guys, most of you probably have the border maker system. Gives you another use for your picket fence if you don't have it already. If you don't have the border maker system, you'll find we use it a fair amount along with the 12-inch trimmer. Right now there is a promo with Creative Memories. So if you're new to us in general and you want to get some of these Creative Memories tools, now is a good time to do it because you can get a bundle free with that. Okay, Megan, I gave you more than your half hour.
Well, if I could unmute myself. Yes, thank you. Let's see here. All right, I was cropping photos. I had picked some photos out, but I hadn't actually gotten them ready to go. So I did that. So yes, I'm Meggan Jax. I'm out here in, well, it was sunny Seattle yesterday, but it's kind of cloudy today. And my 7-year-old is going to pop his head in here and say hello. So we're going to get started. I have a 2-page layout for you to share with you today. And yeah, we'll get started. So
I'll say hello to Cody in your background.
okay, he was grabbing his tablet. That's what he was doing. He had it was on the floor in here and he was sneaking in, crawling under through the door to get his tablet. He had a purpose. All right, so here is the 2-page layout that I'm sharing with you today. And we're basically going to be making, if you looked at the directions, you'll see that we're going to make basically these little border components that we then use throughout the 2 pages. One of the things I wanted to point out here, I was not able to really show it well in the photos, was that I had a lot of photos from this field day. This is from 2011, so it is my now going to college our son. And so this was when he was in 1st grade, and I had a ton of photos from field day. So what I've actually done is used a 12x6 peekaboo pocket, and then I've got all these layouts in here, flip it up. There's a couple more. I will do some journaling in here to kind of talk about the tradition of field day at that school that he attended. But there's just lots of ways to include. So I think I've got a total of 14 photos on here, and the squares were easy enough to crop down. Just, lots of things. So with that in mind, I had a whole other stack of water photos. So I'm actually going to be using Serene Waters for this layout. I wanted a chance to play with it. As Tessa mentioned, she's been traveling. I've been traveling. I think I've been home a total of 8 days since the beginning of, or since June 7th or 8th, whenever we traveled out to Minneapolis. So it's been a whirlwind of the past several weeks for me. So what we need is 2 background papers. I mentioned that in the supply list. You need 2 background papers, cardstock, album pages, whatever you want to use. Like I said, I am using Serene Waters. I'm using a couple of tonal papers from the tonal pack. And it's kind of got that watery painted stripe effect. I think the other side is really pretty. I mean, seriously, I'm gonna have to get a second pack of this paper for sure. So those are gonna be my background papers. And then we're going to want a tonal paper with contrasting sides. And this is actually the paper that I punched. So I used in my sample, I used the summer texture papers that are currently available. And so they had some nice colors. They went with the Sun Rays for Days collection, really nice, but you can see it's got kind of a golden, it's actually got flowers on one side, then kind of that barn board on the other, and it had a nice contrast when I punched the starry border. You can see those stars popping through, but you can still see the yellow and the red, so it worked great. So with that in mind, I wanted to find a contrasting paper that is similar here to the concept of the contrast. So it's got the blues on one side, the other side is this really nice orange. So that's going to contrast really nice when I use my border maker cartridge. I am going to be using the Bubbles border maker cartridge. You want to use a cartridge that will stay attached to the paper. So a knockout style, which would be Bubbles. It doesn't alter the edge. It only knocks out the design. Or you can use the edge style, which would be that picket fence, the starry, the things where it does do that decorative edge, but it stays attached to the paper. And now, that being said, I will talk about it when it actually come time to do some of this. I will talk about if you are using a chain, if you don't have an edge punch that works how you want it to work, you can just do a simple fold, layer on a chain border across it. That would work fine too. So we have that paper that we are going to be folding, punching and folding. And then in my layout here, you can see when we get down to step 8, I show how I use the 12-inch or the 2 by 12-inch strips and the 3 3/4 inch squares to do a little bit of accent. If you can see here on my original layout, you will see some stripes here. The little makes these decorative squares a little bit more exciting. So that is what I've done is picked out a piece of paper that would work for that. And I'm going to use the kind of mosaic stripe situation that's going on here with all those lovely colors in the serene waters. The last piece that you're going to want to have is some extra papers. You can see in my sample layout that I cut some thin strips of like the green. There's some grass texture paper in the on these that I did thin strips with a decorative blade on my trimmer. You can do accents like that if you want. You may not need them. I felt I wanted to bring that green in of the grass, and that was a great way to do it. I also cut circles out of paper. So you want to have those little scraps of accent things that you can do, and they don't have to be full sheets. Like I said, you can just grab some scraps. So just things you might have, maybe you'll have a mat that you want to use to cut. You can cut some half circles out of mats. Things like that to play with. So I went ahead and grabbed some just blue cardstock because it goes well with my colors. And I went ahead and did grab some vellum from the Serene Waters because I was kind of thinking when I did my circles that maybe I'd actually do 2 circles. And I would have, the blue cardstock and then cut another circle with the vellum and just give that and tone down how dark the blue is and just make it get that nice texture of the water in there too. So for my punch, there was a question asked about which punch I used. I used the Starry Border Maker cartridge. It's retired now, but you can probably check it down on the ISO. I'm sure if you check with Tessa or I believe we both have some available if you would like to be able to get that starry border into your supply, your stash. All right, so let me put this aside. And here we go. I need my directions. So my background papers, I'm going to set those to the side as well as that accent piece. I'm going to set those to the side right now. Really all I need is that piece of paper that is that I'm punching. So if you're going to punch this, and I forgot to make my little Post-it notes here, we're going to punch that, or we're going to cut this first. So you're going to want to grab your personal or your 12-inch trimmer. And I'm just really quick writing down those measurements that we're going to be using. They're on your handout, of course. Hopefully you've had a chance to print that. So the one thing I want you to do here is if you're using a tonal pattern, for the most part, you may not have much of a direction to your print. I have a little bit of a direction. It's not super dependent. This can go either way. But if you have, we are going to be cutting, and then when we actually place it, we're going to rotate it horizontal. So I want you to look, if you have a direction, if you've got trees or some other thing on there that actually has a top to it, you want to make sure that your top is actually to the side. This is the top edge of my paper. Now it's like, for me, I think I do want my, when I punch this, I want to have these kind of wavy motion things going like this on my paper. So I'm going to consider this the top edge of my paper, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So this is my top edge. Now my first cut that I'm going to do is going to be at 6 1/4 inch. Make sure I've got my straight blade in there. You were just working with Tessa, so you should. I cut stuff yesterday with I was mixing back and forth between my decorative cutter, and it was not going well. I made some wrong cuts, so I'm always double checking to make sure I have the right blade in there. So 6 1/4 inches, and we're going to go ahead and trim. This piece over here is 5 3/4 inches. This piece, the smaller piece, I want to rotate 90 degrees. So this one is cut to 6 1/4 inch wide. This smaller piece, I'm going to trim to 9 3/4 inches. So I'm bringing it over here, 9 3/4 inch. And I'm going to cut. This piece here is scrap. You may find a great use for it in your layout. You've got both sides to choose from. So don't put it too far. It might work well for title or other little decorations. So here's the 2 pieces that we need to use. So we have this is 6 1/4 wide by 12 long. This one is 5 3/4 wide by 9 3/4. All right, so we're just following along with that was getting ourselves through step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to punch the long sides of both pieces. So you're going to have 4 sides that you're going to punch with your border maker cartridge. If you do not have a border maker cartridge, you could use a border punch. The border punches punch a little bit deeper, so we might need to keep that in mind. You should be okay. It should be fine. But you want to make sure that when you're punching that those punches are going to stay attached to the edge. Now, Bubbles punches a straight edge across the top. All right. If you're using Bubbles, if you're using Sunshine, if you're using Animal Tracks or Zebra Stripe, all of those are not going to give you any kind of, it's going to be a straight edge across the top. I am going to make a small adjustment based on how I want this particular layout to turn out. I do not want just bubbles across the top of my layout. I don't want it just to be a straight edge. I actually want it to be a decorative edge. So I'm actually going to come back to my trimmer. I'm going to grab my wave blade. It's a green blade. And I'm going to do a quick cut on all 4 edges. And I'm just going to make those have wave edges. All right. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that when I punch my bubbles, it's going to be bubbles with a little wave edge at the top. My knockout punch, my bubbles punch will not alter that decorative edge that I'm about to cut. And it is much easier for me to cut it before I punch than it is after I punch. So I'm going to do that. That is just a quick customization for how the punch I'm using. You may not necessarily want to do that, and that's okay. But I want this wavy edge. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Always finding uses for those decorative blades. The trimmer is so easy to pop those blades in and out. I'm just barely over that trim line. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm done with this decorative blade for the moment. I'm going to take it out and go ahead and put in my straight blade so that I don't mistakenly use the blade again, though. Yeah, I just want this one edge. I was actually thinking about how I'm going to fold it in other steps, whether or not I want to use the decorative blade again. And I'm good. I'm going to keep it just these punched edges will have that decorative blade. Now I need to go ahead and punch with bubbles. I punched one side, I'll punch the other, and then I'll put that other piece in here. So you could have used, if you're using something like animal tracks, or you're using zebra stripe, something like the decal or the Victorian or decorative blades would work really well. They would be a nice complement to that. I kind of wish we get something like a pinking edge, but I think they said that they're not sure they can get it to fit right within the blades. They're kind of limited on how they can do the designs, because they've got to make sure that whatever they fit can fit through that slot right there. So
Yeah, it's a bummer, because I would love that.
I don't know, maybe we should have a little conversation with Sherry and just confirm. They absolutely can't. Can't we try? She'd probably tell us they did. They did try.
Everyone keeps asking when they're gonna have a new blade, but my guess is they've kind of exhausted the list that they think can really work.
They teased us with all these slots. I was expecting to fill every single one of them. All right, so now we've punched both sides. We've completed step 2. We are going to start working with the 12-inch piece at first. So you can go ahead and set this smaller piece to the side. So the 12-inch piece, we want to cut down the middle. Now it's 6 1/4 inches wide. We've made some adjustments. If you use an edger, or maybe use picket fence and it chopped off, needless to say, it's unlikely that your piece is still 6 1/4 inches wide. So I couldn't tell you just to cut it in half at 3 1/8. So the quick way to do this, because they don't have to be perfectly in half. The quick way to do it, as I kind of mentioned, is you're going to pinch in half at the top to find your middle. Pinch in, so fold it over, pinch, there's my middle. And now I'm going to go ahead and trim. So that's all step 3 is about, is you're just pinching to find, you fold it in half, give it a quick pinch at the top to find the middle, and then go ahead and trim. They should be roughly the same. I think I have one that's a little bit wider than the other, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not off. It's off by like a 1/16 of an inch. So not a big deal at all. Now, the next step 4, we pinch again. And what you're doing here is you're going to fold yours over, and you can make the decision when you're doing this. Do I want to have a lot of border at the top? Like in my bubbles, am I going to fold right at my bubbles and leave a lot up here at the top? Or am I going to do a bigger overlap and leave more of the blue here at the bottom? Now, I am pretty certain I don't want a lot of orange at the top. I want to leave more of the blue. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do a more aggressive fold. And what I'm doing is, since I am planning to use this, this square design mosaic paper as kind of an accent, I'm just kind of imagining, what does that look like? All right. Versus if I come down like this, I think I want more of the blue. I want the orange just to be a tiny bit of an accent, pop those bubbles off there, but I really want the blue to stand out. So when I fold, I'm going to fold so there's just a little bit of orange sticking out at the top. Like I said, you may decide you want more of that background color coming through, and you're going to fold a little less aggressively. You do have flexibility in how wide your piece of your border can be here. So we're going to go ahead and fold. If you want, what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to pinch, and then I could score. We'll see here. Maybe I'll fold one. I usually try to score because I just don't think I fold really well, but I think I will just try to fold it by hand. There we go. Not too bad. And then I will repeat on the next piece, kind of mimicking the same thing here. I'm going to come up. I left not quite a quarter of an inch, it looks like. Like I said, these are not next to each other. So if it's not perfect, it's okay. You want them to be roughly the same. You have the scoring blade. You can pinch and then use that as your guide to score, or use a ruler and see what you want to do. I've got a ton of water photos. So this is some pool photos from a place where we have a cabin. They have like an HOA thingy that has a clubhouse and a pool. So we go swimming there a lot in the summer, but I have a lot of water. We spent a day on Lake Michigan in Indiana, and it was wonderful, beautiful, beautiful day. So I have lots of photos to do from that. Have to make sure I work in some reds because they got sunburnt. Apparently, living in Washington, we forgot how to appropriately apply suntan lotion. And so we all walked away with a definite redness. Lessons learned there. So there you have your borders. So Colleen is asking if there's a list to easily see which BMCs are edges and which will punch independent borders. Any border with the name chain in it punches away from the paper. So kissing fish chain, circle chain. Did they name it rolling sails chain?
Oh, I have to open the box.
No, rolling sails stays attached. That's why. So usually if it has the name chain in it, it will detach. So anything that doesn't say chain should stay attached. You can always give it a quick punch on the on a scrap piece of paper to make sure. Anything really that has a straight, if you look at the design that has a straight edge across the bottom of the design should more than likely stays attached. So it's not for sure. I'm looking at mine, and a lot of them that are straight across the bottom will stay attached to the paper.
You can also look on the back of the cartridge if you have it.
Yeah. I mean, I can see here that there's no way that it pops, but if you have them all in your storage and you can visually look at them, anything that's straight across the bottom is one that you could grab. So here you can see that straight across the bottom. Grab that one and take a peek so you can see and just confirm that it's going to stay attached to the paper. Bubbles is a hard one to find. And I don't know, and maybe in August, we're going to see, just like we did last year, we will see the bring back the retired BMCs. Remember last year we were able to get footprints and paw prints and grass. So maybe this year in mid-August, we'll see a similar promotion. No guarantees. I don't know. I just like to keep track of what we did previous years and see whether or not we do them the next year. All right. So we are ready now for step 5. Step 5, we're working with that smaller piece. It was 9 3/4 inch wide. We've punched both edges. We are now going to cut this into thirds, and that is 3 1/4 inch segments. So 3 1/4 inch. Oops, I was measured at 3. I need to come over to 3 1/4, and I'm just going to cut 3 1/4. You just have to make 2 cuts, and you'll have all 3 pieces. Now I am going to use my scoring blade for this next one. And I'm going to score at 1 1/4 inch. So I come here and lined up on the edge here, and I'm going to score at 1 3/4 inch on both sides. Now what I can do is I'm going to just double check. I'm going to fold this over and make sure that I like how it looks, because of course I say the 1.25 inches. I could adjust that, but I'm going to leave it just the way it is, I think. All right, that's what I'm going to start. I could make some adjustments. I've got a darker piece of paper. And my experience is if I needed to make a new score line here, I probably could, and it wouldn't be a huge deal. One thing that I could keep in mind is on my sample, you know, I put in that decorative detail along this edge here. I did a thin strip. I really don't have room to do that. You can see here, I've got more blue at the bottom here than I do on this piece. But I do not want to come in too much more here, because then all of a sudden, well, I don't know. We'll have to see how this kind of plays out. I'm going to stick with the 1.25 inches. I'm just making, well, I don't think I can punch. I don't think I can fold it as aggressive. My fold on this one is closer to the 1.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. If I score and make a wider fold at 1.5 inches, I can always score again and bring it back. So I'm going to try one that way. I'm going to try close to 1.5 inches. It's not going to be a full 1.5 inches. So that step 6, you may need to adjust based on what punch you've used, how aggressively you folded this piece. It worked for Starry. That 1.25 inches was about where I needed to be for all of it. But Starry is a different border than Bubbles. All of the border maker cartridges can be a little bit different. So this one, I'm going to do a little more of aggressive fold. Gives me a little bit more space here at the bottom if I wanted to come in with that accent piece. But you can see here, I am really losing that orange in the middle. And my overall piece is much smaller. So I am definitely under 3 inches, whereas this piece, I am closer to that 3 1/4. So I have almost a true square versus not really a true square. I've got 2 pieces. I'm not going to fold this third one. I'm going to wait. Sometimes you just never know how it's going to look. You need to mess around with it. I told Tessa earlier, my first example when I came up with this was not working out well for me at all. It was the wrong colors, the wrong papers for these field day photos, and I had to kind of make some definite adjustments. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to come down here to step 8. And we're going to cut some 2-inch strips and some 3 3/4 inch strips out of that decorative paper that we've got. The one thing I want you to do is you need to take this border here, your folded border. If you've got a ruler, if you've got your cutting mat, if you've got your trimmer, double check that a 2-inch strip is going to work for you. A 2-inch strip will work for me. But if I had a wider piece, maybe I need to have it a 2 1/4 inch piece. So just double check that a 2-inch piece is going to give you enough at the top and the bottom for your pattern to show through. And it will. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those 2-inch pieces. Like I said, you might have a 2 1/4 inch piece. The one thing I am looking at, because I want to make sure that I can see the coming in here. What I am noticing as I'm getting ready to cut this, my cut is going to be at this very edge of this square. Now, that means I'm going to have a lot of this white is what's going to show on either side of this border, and that's not really what I want. So I'm going to make a little bit of adjustment here. I'm going to slice off the very edge. Little nitpicky on putting this together. So sorry, Tessa, I am totally running over my time. This was supposed to be easy. All right.
That's what she always says.
Well, but then I get into the nitpicky details of things, and I want it, I want it to look how I envisioned it. So 2 inches. All right. I'm gonna do the same thing here, and I'm running into that exact same issue again. So I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'll be okay. Well, see, I get picky. We'll make it work. It doesn't have to be exact. Two inches, two 2-inch squares or 2-inch strips. And now I need those 3 1/4 inch squares. So I'm going to cut this at 3 1/4 and make those squares.
It's just going to be a cliffhanger for everyone that has to go clock back in for lunch.
Yeah, sorry about that, people. You'll get to see it. I'll get them posted. I promise. I'm excited. I have photos to put on here. Okay. So there we go. So we got some leftover pieces, scraps. Those are available, especially if I like the other side, maybe I want to use that. So options there. All right. We've got all the pieces we need. Now it is time to start assembly. I'm going to use my cutting mat. Help me line some things up. The first thing I need to do is go ahead and put on those 12-inch, the 2 by 12-inch strips at the top and the bottom. I'm working on the left page. And I'm going to come down about, well, 1/4 inch or so from the top. I want a little bit of that background paper to show through at the top. Make sure your paper's on here. If you're using the 12-inch, the 13-inch mat as your ruler, you need to make sure your paper's on there straight. Is always helpful. We'll do the same at the bottom. And now I'm going to go ahead. I am going to put some adhesive in here to hold this border closed. And then I'm going to put these the borders on the top and the bottom. And I am doing it so that the folded edges is towards the middle. My decorative edge is towards the top, the top and the bottom. That it's like folded up and it's folded down. So I probably should have warned you if you used a directional punch that you might have some upside down, but of course you can make adjustments as needed. You could move things around. So like if you're using like sandcastles, you might have some upside down sandcastles, but that's okay. All right. So there's page, yes, they were supposed to be 3 3/4 by instead of 3 1/4. You're right. I did my squares wrong, guys. I am so sorry. Thanks for catching that. Helen mentioned that my squares were supposed to be 3 3/4 inches, and that is correct. So I'm going to have to use my, my paper here to make some new squares. Thanks. I'm really sorry, guys. If you cut it to 3 1/4 inch, I'm really, really sorry. It's 3 3/4. So let me recut those really fast because I am going to need them here in a minute. 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. That's the same size. You will also cut your square photos. All right, so I've got some bigger squares. Now I might easily be able to find a use for these smaller squares. So we'll try not to let maybe, or I won't. I mean, I'll just toss them back into my folder because I can make some circles or do something. I'll find something to do with these. It's obviously too pretty a paper to toss aside. So it'll all work out. But here is my, my overall design, right? Now, let's go ahead and put the other piece together. I'm making sure my thing is vertical. Tessa used the T ruler, and I'm going to do the same thing to put my squares into place that I just recut. So I'm going to come down here to 3 7/8. So just one up from the 4 on the left or the right side. And I need to put my first square in place. Now I have learned from my own use, from my own experience, I'm going to use repositionable in this case, because I might have to adjust where these are. So you want to come in, actually, trying to think here, if I want to come in, yeah, you want to come in 1/8 of an inch. So there's one. And I'm just following my sample. So my next piece I'm going to put is going to be over here in this quadrant. So I'm going to come over here on this side. I'm coming up to 4 1/8. On this side over here, it's 7 7/8. And then at the bottom is a little bit easier. I'll be able to just wing that into place there. I'm making sure my stripes are going the wrong direction. My stripes need to go up and down. I'm going to try hand placing these. We'll see. You don't have to use a T-ruler. It makes it easier. The measurement, the challenge with adding all those measurements to the handout is the handout starts to get really kind of chaotic. And I'm hoping that everybody can just kind of see that you need to space those evenly. So if you need to, just do a quick dry fit of all your pieces into place first. You just need to center everything within there. So you can dry fit it and then tack them into place after you dry fit. So for example, now I'm ready to start putting on, or I can start thinking about how my photos are going to be arranged. I'm going to tack this one into place here. I'm not going to worry about building the other two because you're kind of getting at the gist of what's going on here. I'm just tacking things closed. And I have photos. I'm going to start kind of getting my photos in place too, so you can kind of see how it's going to start to come together. So if you have the photos, so I have a little story to tell of just the successional snapshots of getting ready to throw Cody in the water, and then I'm going to be working in some other photos from the time in the pool. All right, so that's kind of how that's all going to come together. The former 9 square template might work. I don't have that template to be able, but this is a very basic, just 9 grid layout. So when you're spacing it, you can, I do a very straight, you could tilt things if you want. I use this layout a lot when I have a lot of photos I'm trying to work in, especially if I know I can get my photos down to squares. It's a great way to get multiple, because you easily, if you had more photos than this, just use one square right here in the middle and then put all your photos around it. You could use a journaling block here. On my sample, I showed you that I had that 6x12 flap that I'm going to have all my journaling in there. So I didn't need to worry about one of these being a journaling spot. So really quickly here, the one last thing I want to be able to show you guys is I did talk about using the blue cardstock to be able to do some additional detail. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the title. And how I did that, and I do not have these measurements on the handout, but you would need to be able to add them as you want to add them. This half circle is done with the circle number 2, which is our medium-sized circle, which I have here. Oh my gosh. Oh, there it is. It's a half circle cut with the green blade on the blue blade on the outside edge. Since I only need a half circle, I'm just coming down to the edge of my paper, grab my blade, which was also just right here. There it is. And on my original, oh dear, that would come in like this at the top. But I want to lighten this up a little bit. So I'm going to use that vellum, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab some of the, I'm going to do the same half circle. And what I'm going to do is I can see here on the vellum, let me push this paper up so you can see. I can see on this water vellum, I can see a little bit of that ripple effect there. So I'm actually going to use that for my, and I'm going to grab this piece kind of right here so I can get that same effect. And I'm going to use the green blade this time. So the blue blade made the widest circle with this template. I'm going to use the green blade. So you can see how that's going to take shape on the layout. Now, quickly, I show you using just 3 vertical images here, but honestly, you can do however you need to do it. So if you've got different photos than that you want to work with, you want to go with, you can fit in, you can work in 2 horizontal images plus a vertical image, or maybe you have a map that you want to include here. You can see you've got just kind of a blank slate to build from. I'm going to do vertical photos again. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a mat, and I'm balancing that mat out. So the mat has a little bit of greener water, and all of the water in my rest of my photos is that real pool blue. However, there's this little like kiddie pool that had a little bit more, see, it's a little more green. It's not, the water's not as deep. So you can see more of the white. It just balances there. And then I can put a picture here in the middle. And what I've got here is I went ahead and I cut down a 4x4. And so it'll look like that. And up here at the top, I will probably put where it was. I'll be, swimming at the Glen and the year. All right. So that's kind of the gist there. I'm going to play around with some of this a little bit more off screen, and I will post the results. I can tell you real quick, I guess, before I let you go, since I'm already over the time, right? So sorry if you have a boss that's yelling at you to get back to work. You tell them Megan's taking forever. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to cut 1 circle. The small circles in my handout are done with this same circle number 2 inside track green blade. Now, if I want to do something with the vellum, I'm going to use the blue blade on the inside track because I need to make it smaller. So green's a bigger, blue's a little bit smaller on the inside track. And this will be a nice spot that I could add I can add a cluster if I want. So this is where I'm going to double check to see how did I like my folding. All right. Do I like that? Imagine these are all straight, right? But I've got these on here straight. Do I like this fold, or do I like, I have another one that I can see how it looks. Do I like that fold where there's more orange, less of the outside? You guys, can you see that? So what am I going to hear my vellum with? I'm going to try the Vellum Runner. I haven't used vellum a lot. You like it seeing the more orange? So this is an option. I actually could probably do a little bit of a bigger circle. I might try a bigger circle. Here, leave it with my more orange, but go in. This is what I like about using the cardstock, because I feel like I can, you know, try things a little bit different. Go ahead and use the red blade. And see how that looks. It's a lot of experimenting. I mean, these are the biggest thing that Tessa and I are giving you is hopefully you're seeing these are just kind of, you know, starting points. You can do literal interpretations, or you can start to customize and make your own. That's why we love for you to share, which we're going to get to the sharing here in a second. We'll tell you, remind you of how to share. So what if I do a little bit of a bigger circle here and then do the vellum on top of that? And then I've got more space for an embellishment on there. Does that sound good? I'm going to go with that. So that's what I'm going to work on after our call here. I will finish these squares out. I'll take and put all my photos on, deck it out, make it look glamorous, and share with you that final layout. All right. So any questions that I can answer for you about the layout?
I think we'll have to rename it Power 75.
Well, hey, no, let's be, well, you talked for a little bit at the beginning.
I gave you but I still ended on time. I know. It was 27 when I gave this over.
I know, but it could have been 17.
Hey, if I'm going to go short, I can talk to fill my time. My layout's easy.
A two-page layout is sometimes hard. So I'll keep that in mind. August, I'll make it lickety split. I'll be done in 20 minutes. Okay. That's my goal. I actually have a design. I have a layout that I have sketched out that I like, but it just, well, I told you, it kind of made me think a little, well, anyway, we're going to work on that. I'll do that one in August. Okay. So we are wrapping things up today. Tess and I will both get our photos posted and shared with you. Now, as a reminder, on your directions, you'll see a hashtag. Post your idea or post your layout. You don't have to post it with photos. It doesn't have to be with Creative Memories products. We just want to see your layouts and post them with this hashtag. We're going to have a drawing. I didn't ask you, Tessa, when's that drawing going to be? Next week? Next Wednesday? 27. So you've got to post your layout.
Oh wait, I guess today's Friday. Never mind. It's not Tuesday. They probably do need more time than.
Oh, they probably do. Should we give them until the 5th?
That's like 2 weeks.
Oh wait, okay.
Let's
so we just
do August 1st.
Okay, so
August 1st.
With that in mind, you need to post your layout by the end of the month. All right, so it's sometime on the 31st, you need to make sure that layout's in there with that hashtag. All right, the hashtag. And then what we do is we filter for the hashtags. You can filter for the hashtags and look at all those ideas. They're going to start streaming in. There might be some there already. And that's in the ideas group. So that is, hopefully you're all in the ideas group. It's linked in your email. So if you go back to your email that had the handout listed, you can see the link to the ideas group. If you're not a member of that, definitely join. We have a lot of fun in there. So that is, like I said, wrapping up for Power Hour or for July. Share your July layout with us. And so somebody's asking how to use the hashtag. So all you have to do when you post your layout is make sure you type hashtag July 2022 PH.
No spaces.
And Facebook does the rest. They recognize that it turns it into a little bit of a link that when you're in our group, not just from your group feed, but actually in the group, you can click on that hashtag on anybody's post and it will show you everybody's post that has that hashtag. And that's what we do to be able to pull the drawing. So a little tip, if you want to have 2 entries, post Tessa's as one post, post mine as one post. Sneaky there, right?
It's true. I just see the number and count. I don't look.
Tessa does all the drawing and she'll say, oh, there's 300 people that posted, and she just random generates a number and then she has to count all the way down. So if she sees that Lori had 2 separate posts and she's like, whatever, dude, keep, if you are the lucky number, perfect. And we work on getting you a prize or whatever it is. So Jackie, in your email, if you go back to your email that had the handouts in it, you're going to see something that talks about the ideas group. click on that link. It is a Facebook group. So we have to be on Facebook to be able to do that. We have, somebody's asking about the PJ party. So Tessa and I are both members of Creative Life Scrapbooking. We have what we call a PJ party coming up. And normally Tessa and I would, there's a live Zoom crop next Friday. So a week from today, there's a live Zoom crop, and there'll be 5 layouts presented to you that you can crop along with us. Tessa and I normally are active live presenters at night. Next, this time though, we are the pre-party layouts, meaning that when you join the PJ party, there's a private Facebook group for it. And when you get accepted or you request to join the group, you're in the group on Saturday or Sunday, you will see Tessa's idea. You will see my idea all set for you to go this weekend. And then next Friday is the live Zoom crop for the other 5 presenters. So you'll see Karen, you'll see Lisa, you'll see Fran and Krista. All will have layouts from you. So the other big thing coming up, and I may have to toss this back to Tessa because she's the one with the vision on this whole thing, is Fast to Fabulous. We've been on great vacations, right? Or hopefully, maybe you're getting ready to go on one. Maybe you just have, you've never tried a Fast to Fabulous album. And they are great things from Creative Memories, especially if you're wanting something quick. And Tessa's got a whole thing that she wants to do, but really quick before I toss it back to her, the next Power Hour, August, we will be getting all the details on, but you can mark your calendars. It is August 9th, and it will be back at its regular time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
No, it's not.
It's 5. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. Is it not? What am I wrong on?
8 o'clock.
Yeah, sorry. We do all the other classes at 7 and 4. It's actually 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Sorry. And then after that, we'll be back to those hours for going into the rest of the month. It's only June and July that we're kind of wonky. And that's because, I don't know, Tessa wanted to go everywhere. She didn't want to be home when I was home.
I know. We like to vacation.
It's time to do it.
And it wasn't an option to skip Power Hour, right?
No.
We skipped all the things we actually get paid for.
That never entered our mind. It was simply, when can we do it? And we're like, well, we're doing it on a Friday and we're doing it during the day. So, all right. So I'm going to toss this back over to Tessa. I can't think if there's anything else that I mentioned I can think of. So I'll toss it back to her. She can give you her little insight into that Fast to Fab, what she's thinking or what she knows so far.
How many of you enjoyed watching Meggan talk as fast as she could because she knew she was over her time?
Stop.
You're like racing. What do I need to say? She's feeling guilt over there. You can tell. Funny. I don't think anyone, if they are in a hurry, they'll just log off, right? I mean, what happens? Everyone else is still here.
I know, but I'm not how I am. Sorry about that, people.
She's not really sorry. It's fine. Next month, she'll think, oh, this is easier. It still will be longer.
Sharon liked
her for it.
Sharon in the UK liked the fact that she's not in her pajamas and, falling asleep at her desk for this time frame. So
we actually prefer daytime over nighttime, except the summer is just nuts. Anytime is the problem. So Fast to Fab. So for those of you not familiar with Creative Memories, Fast to Fab are pre-printed pages that you can get from Creative Memories. And it is the only way that I do vacation albums now because I take so many pictures. And it's kind of funny that, I have great pictures, right, from Southern Utah. And a lot of people posting, oh, these are going to be great layouts. Can't wait to see your layout. You're going to be disappointed because I use Fast to Fab, which means I'm not creating some of these from scratch layouts. You see, they're beautiful to showcase every picture. I would never get done because let me clue you in the secret. I haven't finished my 2020 vacation album yet. And I haven't really put the finishing touches on my vacation yet for 2017. So I have to do Fast to Fab because it's the only way I can conceivably think I'll get through it, because a vacation will be 2 full albums. And I'm behind in everything else. And so Meggan also traveled. She'll be using Fast to Fab. And so I love the concept so much for project or theme. So if you're going to do a book where it's one theme that you can choose papers for, Fast to Fab are a good option. I don't use them for my kids. I don't use them for my family because I want to choose layout by layout what papers I want, right? But when you're doing a vacation or maybe a baby album, a wedding album, I've done them for Emerson's homecoming and prom pics. If you're like me, you take 300 from literally one night because she has something fun. anything like that where the pages can be the same, FastFab is a good option. You can cover parts that you don't like, and we'll talk about that. So my vision, she's probably laughing at me because I have a vision and not really a full plan yet, right? It's still a little bit visionary because I can't quite decide. But we're going to walk through the entire process. So from looking at your photos, how to organize them, how to print them, we'll power layout, the pictures and the pages, and then we'll talk through the process of how I approach actually building the album. It will not be a layout step-by-step class that you're used to when we do sometimes, or I give you the measurements, because we're going to talk about the concept of here's your page and you have your photos. What are you going to do? You know, the kind of the process I go through doing it. So people have messaged me saying, well, what pages should I buy? You need to buy whatever pages work for whatever project that you want. I like FastFab because it gives me a base to start with. I'm not creating from scratch. Every layout, and in the FastFab pages, you get a lot more neutrals, a lot more neutral base in the papers than you do in the paper packs. And sometimes I wish I could go back to them and say, can you print some of these as papers? Because they really help balance it out. So the format, you'll probably see some videos. We don't quite know how the content will come out, but we are going to do that this fall. So if you want to be prepared for it, especially right now during the promo, we gave you a heads up because of the promo right now, because buying 2 or 3 sets of FastFab pages adds up a little bit, especially if you get your cover, that you can go ahead and get a free bundle with us. So that's why we're rolling it out there. We literally have no marketing yet. We don't even have a true concrete plan yet. She's like, what's your time frame? I'm like, well, the best I can tell you, it will not be before August 17th, because that is the day I will have Jonah move to school, Emerson will be at school, the twins will be in school. I have 8 hours, 8:30, 4:30 every day. I haven't had that ever in working in like this. I've had 8 hours uninterrupted by kids. So it will be a series of some sort of videos or whatever. You can wait to buy anything if you're not sure. If you know you want to do vacation or whatever. I'm hoping soon I can get on there. I'll just give you a real brief concept of choosing your pages, because I would like to go show you what I do. So what I do is I go to the website and there's a whole page of FastFab pages. And so I will look at them. Don't look at the name of the collection, look at the color palette. And so I look at the color palettes and I think, okay, can this work for my photos? And I will, if you go into each set of pages, like if you go into the Wanderlust landing page to buy them, there will be a link that takes you to the issue pages, which is kind of like online digital catalog. And you can flip through page by page to look at what the designs are. And so don't be deterred. Even if there's one print in there you don't like, you can cover it. I've used baby pages before and covered up. I did it. Do you guys remember Woodland Whimsy? When that came out, the pages actually were very outdoorsy, but the animal print was a little babyish. But I used that set for a trip I took to Southern Utah with Jonah at the time. So he was like 15-year-old boy. And so I just covered up that one print of the animals that was a little bit too whimsy. The rest of the colors worked fine because they were plaids and neutrals. So look at the color palette and think, okay, does the majority of this work for my photos? Because in the end, having something to start with is better than nothing to start with when it comes to getting through fast. Everyone, if we took a poll right now, you all know in Southern Utah, what FastFab page set do you think I will use? Everyone thinks I'm going to use Leave Nothing Behind, right? Because that's the one that came out with all that stuff. Wrong. I honestly think I'm going to use Welcome Home, because when I flipped through Leave Nothing Behind, and then I went in there and clicked into Welcome Home, the colors are really neutral. They're really outdoorsy. And I think it's actually will be a better base. And I can still bring in the Leave Nothing Behind embellishments and some of that other stuff. So so go and look at the pages with an open mind. Think of a trip. So you need at least 200 to 400 photos will get you through a book. You want it to be something that's one theme. Look at the pages. And if you're interested, you can find out with the rest of us when Megan and I figured out how to access the content this fall. So it will probably be a lot of videos that you can access on your own and kind of process related videos. Is that enough to confuse you, or is that kind of give you an idea of what it is? And we will show you what we've made. So right now on our YouTube channel, there's one video from a vitamin C FastFab book that I made for spring break. You can go look at that book, and I kind of talk through some of that concept. And then I have other albums too, and I know Megan's going to do some of her before and after of what she has done also. So I know some people get scared of it. In the end, if you don't like it, you can cover up the pages and pretend like they were white to begin with, and you've only lost $3. They're only $3 more than the regular pages, and it saves you a lot of paper and thought process in the end. Does that make sense? Is that enough? Is that too much? I don't know. They're all just looking at me. Okay, we'll go with that.
I'm sure it's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
I'm going to tell you guys, I'm probably not going to do my vacation photos in this particular one, because I will let that be just kind of a process that unravels through, you know, doing things. But I had started, and I need to finish my baby album, and I started using Little Lamb because it had those wonderful colors that were 70s-ish. So I won't necessarily be starting quite from the beginning like Tessa is, but I still have so much work to do. And I actually came across more photos that I kind of have to rework things. So I will be showing a lot of before and afters. And we're hoping to do is address, you know, all of the little things, all those little self-doubt things you have when you're looking at a fast fab. I don't know how to do this. What do I do about this? What do I do about that? That's what we're going to try to help you with. So start thinking of those things. Those, you know, have confidence in what we're going to help you with. And if you know you have questions, you know you have concerns, let us know what they are. We would want to make sure we address everything so that you end up with a Fast Fab album that you love, and you're confident of trying that option again, because it really is pretty wonderful.
The baby set, the baby sets, Lullaby Lane, even in general, is a pretty neutral set. So don't pass that one up either. Looking at it, and I think I actually might get Devotion to use for Emerson's prom pics.
I'm just going to tell you, I think you're crazy having that many photos just for prom. I literally have like 5 photos from Kevin at his senior ball. And so it cracks me up that you have that many. Granted, Kevin doesn't have 10 friends, and they're not girls and all that other stuff.
Well, I think there was 17 of them last time. I don't know. Okay, how about this? I will make a video of the book, and you ladies can tell me if it was worth it or not, because it's beautiful. It is honestly one of my favorite albums, and they all just graduated and they're going their different directions, and I will never regret having captured all of that, because they've been friends since like 5th grade. So I don't think it'll repeat. It wasn't the same for Jonah. I don't think Campbell will have that big of a group of friends. So it's kind of like this anomaly. I can do what I want.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that to me it's kind of like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Somebody asked if we're going to send out this information, and we will, guys. We will make sure it's communicated. I'm sure Tessa's going to jump onto the group with a live that kind of talks about stuff. She and I have to flesh it out over the next week, and make sure that we can, you know, are very solid in what we're presenting to you guys.
Yeah, well, as soon as I'm solid, we'll write it down a little bit more succinct.
She's going to tell me what I need to put in all the marketing stuff. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Okay. So a YouTube channel is the Vitamin C. It's just a walk through the album itself. So when we send out this email later today, it will link you into YouTube for this recording. And if you just go to our playlist, you can scroll down and find the one that says Vitamin C. And someday, I cannot commit to a time until my kids are all at college, I will film the homecoming one. So, okay, and then we'll see you August 9th. I know you missed this. Did you guys all have withdrawals between June and July? It was like 6 or 7 weeks, right?
It was a long
time.
time.
Short. It's going to be short
yeah,
by the time we turn this around. Yeah,
this one will be very
30.
short. So guys, definitely, yes, check out our YouTube channel. That has everything that we have available publicly is on there. And you can see, so Tessa's previous power hours, and we are working on adding power hour videos that we don't currently have on there. We are working on adding those. So some of our early layouts, those will be coming up this fall. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon.